Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article each week and we talk about what we find. Dan, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we are talking about Space Taxi.
Space Taxi?
Space Taxi.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Like, does he have a space taxi?
I absolutely will. Space Taxi is an action game for the Commodore 64.
Oh my god.
Written by John Rutter and published by Muse Software in 1984. It simulates, get this, a flying taxi.
In space?
Brilliant, yeah. The game features sampled speech including, "Hey taxi, pad 1 please," and similar different pads, "Thanks," and "Up please." These are said in a variety of voice pitches, creating a feeling of different taxi customers. So they haven't got different voice actors, they just pitch bend the same person.
Oh no, that's clever. I like that. Because that is true. Like you, I remember I watched a really interesting video about how, I think it was Donkey Kong got all the sound design onto the chips in the, so the N64, there was so little memory that they would get around it by telling the computer, the console, to play the same sound effect in different ways to get different sound effects in the game. So, like, a drone in one area might be a sound effect that was stretched out, like at a much, much slower speed, or, pitch shifted, or played backwards. It's really, really clever design. So that's pretty clever, and save space. I think it's probably not to save money; it's to save space.
I've just seen an in-game screenshot, and it looks like it's been made in MS Paint. It's just beautiful.
I've got to
it's
Google
prime
this now.
Commodore 64. Oh god, this just looks incredible. In addition to thrusters, the taxi has landing gear that can be switched on or off. Switching the landing gear off disables the side thrusters, but landing without the landing gear destroys the taxi.
Oh my god! So it's like Astrolander, but with a taxi element. Also, I've just googled it, and the cover, like the artwork, is amazing.
Yeah, it looks good, isn't it?
Like, look, that's us in this podcast.
Basically is.
There's a taxi that seems to be under fire from Space Invaders. I don't know, based on the screenshots here, that doesn't seem to be part of the game. But, under fire, it's like a New York cab, and then there's the guy at the back reaching out, being like, "No, don't pull the lever, Kronk." And then there's Dan at the front being like, "I'm going to pull the lever." It's quite something. Wow. Okay, so what more can you tell me about this game?
Well, I've just been flicking through, and I'm trying to see, because it's not, I wouldn't say it's a small Wikipedia article. It's got a fairly hefty kind of gameplay segment, which you would assume, given that it is a video game. But it says at the bottom, the final kind of tidbit of information says, after completing all levels, the player gets to a special mystery level, in which the player is greeted with a message, "Welcome to Muse World." Now, Muse was the software developer. And 3 platforms, each with a figure relating to another Muse software game. An ambulance representing Rescue Squad, 1983, also by John Rutter. The soldier with Haken Krauts, I guess, for Castle Wolfenstein. I didn't realise they were the same. And Silas S. Warner developed that, and he did the music for this one.
What was your first games console?
It would have been something on the old Windows Home Edition. I think it was Windows XP.
Your first operating system was XP?
I think so. Or was it Windows 97? Oh, I can't remember.
Mine was Windows 95. I remember us getting our first computer.
I need to check.
Except I think I had a Game Boy Color before we got a computer, and I tricked my dad into buying me basically, my dad had this rule where if I wanted to save any money, he would double it, because it was always very small quantities of money, and I got together £35, and he doubled it, gave me another £35, which I then put in my savings, and then immediately withdrew from my savings, and then spent £70 on a Game Boy Color.
See, I had a Game Boy, and then a Game Boy Advance SP, and then that would have been just before I was on, because I'm only 97. No, I think my first, as in year 97, not 97 years old. XP, I think, was my first operating system, and then that didn't stick around for long because we ended up going to Mac OS,
like a scrub. Yeah, I had I remember my friend had a Sega Mega Drive. That's the earliest console I have any connection with, and he offered it to me. I could have bought it for $5, and I still regret not taking him up on that because I was like, oh, it's a lot of money. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's I'm not going to do it. And now I'm just wishing that I'd taken him up on it because it would have been such an antique just to have like in the corner of the office.
Yeah, I had a friend's dad who used to collect them, and he had an Acorn Archimedes.
And I never even heard of an Acorn Archimedes. Man, gaming back in the day was rad.
Yeah. The Acorn Archimedes is a family of personal computers designed by Acorn Computers Limited in Cambridge.
I've heard of
in the
Acorn
late 1980s. Yeah. It was called the Archimedes, and it's a bit of a monolith.
Oh my god, I just googled it as well. The memory was between 512 kilobytes and 16 megabytes. Wow.
Apparently there was an unauthorized sequel, Space Taxi 2, released by Twilight Games in 2004. It is no longer available.
Well, that's a hell of a gap, and also a bizarre title to choose for a sequel. I mean, was this thing well received at all?
Interestingly, there's nothing about its critical reception.
Now that's worrying, isn't it? That says something.
I wonder if there's something. Hang on, let's see. Let me see if I can do a bit of digging. It seems that its critical reception was it's really well loved in the Commodore 64 kind of sphere. Yeah, a classic game, fun with no end, 10 out of 10. One of my favourite games, just wonderful. Graphics and sound to be a bit frumpy, but it doesn't kind of work against the game. 9 out of 10. Simple but tricky, 9 out of 10. So yeah, it seems to be received fairly well. But equally, Commodore 64 games are pretty niche at the moment.
I was going to say, it's not exactly a widespread community.
No, it's not like a AAA title, is it? So, yeah. But
having said that, I feel like I'd probably enjoy playing that more than I'd enjoy a lot of AAA titles these days.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I still...
Well, that's really... Did you hear about this Harry Potter RPG leak?
Yes, because we talked about this when I was down in Exeter this weekend. So for the benefit of the readers, pretend that I didn't hear what is that leak, Dan?
So a game has been leaked, very controversially, and I imagine this guy is probably going to get into lots of trouble. But basically, there's been this Harry Potter set in the Harry Potter universe RPG being made. And from the videos and photos that have been released, it looks like they've thrown a load of money at it, but really focusing on attention to detail. It's not like it's unlike anything else that has come out before. I urge you to try, if you can, to pop it into Google or something, and you'll be able to find something on Reddit with the photos. But it looks unbelievably exciting. And I imagine it must be planned for a release sometime early 2019 to coincide with just as Fantastic Beasts closes.
Right, yeah.
Maintain
that hype level.
Yeah, I haven't actually checked up on it on how it's been doing. Harry Potter. Yeah, so the last time it was 3rd of October, so around the same time I saw it. But it does just look very, very exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, someone really couldn't have coded a better game for you, unless it was somehow a World of Warcraft Harry Potter crossover.
The footage first appeared on Reddit courtesy of poster Vape This Bro. Brilliant. Welcome to Reddit, everyone.
The modern history of the internet, everyone.
Yeah. But yeah, that's super exciting. So that's not exactly Dan's space corner, but it's Dan's tech corner.
Dan's
that rounds off Space Taxi pretty nicely, because everything else is pretty boring.
Well, we should probably sort of recollect briefly whilst the article has sort of fizzled out. Despite the fact that I'm still a bit confused about why they wouldn't have a section on the critical acclaim if it is so well loved. But anyway, we should probably recollect.
Well, it probably actually has something to do with game criticism of that time, doesn't it? I mean, personal computers were few and far between, so it doesn't have that. Being a game critic then wasn't really a thing. So it's in terms of it having a critical reception, it's probably just because the platform, the Commodore 64 was so niche, it didn't.
So it was kind of there's lots of reviews out there, but they're not credible. They're not from like an
official source, because an official game critique source wouldn't have been around then.
Well, I think because
84.
If you go on like XCOM Enemy Unknown, which was some people would say is the best game ever made. Oh, hang on, no, I don't mean Enemy Unknown. I mean UFO Defense, which was the... Oh, no, yeah. No, it was UFO Defense in America, Enemy Unknown everywhere else. That has a section on reception. You know, it's quite a big section, actually, on how everybody completely fell in love with it. So, you know, I think... and that was 1994. So, admittedly, a bit later on in time. I mean, hang on. So, what was it? 1984, did you say it was from?
Yeah.
1984 games. Let's see what else was released in that year. Because I feel like, you know, 1984 in video gaming. Thank you, Wikipedia. Notable releases. Gap Plus, the sequel to Galaga. Oh, I didn't know Galaga had a sequel. Oh God. There's quite a lot that happened in the year.
Oh wow! In 1984, Tetris was released.
You're joking? Surely not.
Yeah.
Hang on. Control. Yeah. Okay. 1984. As I just read from the Wikipedia article here. 1984 has seen many sequels and prequels in video games, and several new titles such as 1942, Tetris, and the Tower of Druaga. I feel like they put the heavy hitter in the middle of that one.
Yeah.
Because this is every year list of years in video gaming. There's actually there's the whole thing on Wikipedia. New companies were founded, including Cynosis, Ocean.
Ooh, okay. Here's an interesting thing. Go into the lists of years in video gaming. Find the year you were born.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And tell me what was released, and I'll tell you what was released in mine.
Oh well. Some amazing titles were released in my year. So I was born in 1990. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake was released.
Oh.
Dr. Mario, the one that Game Grumps have played that one. And Super Mario World were sort of the big heavy hitters.
Jeez.
I'm not seeing a huge amount. So you're 97?
97, yeah.
What was released in 1997?
GoldenEye 007.
Oh, well, he wins.
Star Fox 64.
Good God.
Mortal Kombat 4. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The first Grand Theft Auto.
Okay, and now this just feels overpowered now. I mean...
Notable releases. So the classic Mac OS was released in 97.
Does that mean that that was the first Apple computer was released in 97?
I don't know. It says notable releases. Classic Mac OS. Maybe it was... I don't know.
Oh, I missed one. Sid Meier's Railroad Tycoon. Did you ever play any of the Tycoon games?
Yes, I did. I had Roller Coaster Tycoon. Mario Kart 64.
Oh God, what a year for gaming! Good God.
Mario Kart 64 came out on February 10th, and I was February 21st.
So, I mean, along with GoldenEye and all these things. So, I just sent you in chat a picture of Railroad Tycoon's box art. They don't do box art like this anymore. Because my God, I mean, I like trains, and I'm nowhere near the level of, for example, Dan V or Jeff Marshall or even my dad. But I don't know how they've managed to make it both immensely romanticized and boring as hell.
Oh my God, yeah.
So Railroad Tycoon is in like a old-timey font, and then there's like a tombstone shaped thing with a giant one of the American trains, like a giant smokestack, and then how would you even describe the way that guy looks? He looks like a clerk in a bank from the 19th century, holding a cigar next to an empire building in the golden age of railroads. God, it must have sold 1 million copies.
Just to nail in the coffin, March 1st, in 1997, the Nintendo 64 was released in Europe and Australia.
So hang on, what was that, March 1st? And then when was Mario Kart released?
Mario Kart was released February 10th.
Wait, what?
So it would have been released in America first. Remember, it's only released in Europe and Australia.
Okay.
So the Nintendo 64 was released in 1996 in Japan.
Okay.
And then it came to North America and Brazil in September.
I mean, that shows just how much the industry's changed. Like, you would never get that happening now. Like, all the big titles for a new console are always released.
This is weird, though. So, first in Japan in June 1996, North America and Brazil September 1996, March 1997 saw its release in Europe and Australia. September 1997, you could buy it in France.
France
Europe and Australia got it in March, and you had to wait until September to buy it in France.
And that would have been before. Actually, would it have been before Common Movement? So people in France would just have been frustrated.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's funny. Also, I love how if you go on the early history of video games, there's actually a history of video games kind of section, and they have a logo which is a like an ionic column. Imagine the rolls at the top, but instead of having rolls, it has a video game like a SNES controller.
Oh yeah.
That's a lovely bit of design.
Yeah.
Also, so hang on, the earliest year that has its own article is 1971, and 3 things happened in that year, which was the Oregon Trail was released, Galaxy Game was released, and Computer Space was released. Man,
what a time to be alive.
Compare that to somehow there's already an article on what's happening in 2020, and it is, oh my god, an absolute mess. All these games that are scheduled to be released, like Age of Empires 4, Medieval Engineers, which is already out. I guess it's on pre-release. Space Engineers. Elder Scrolls 6 is scheduled for release in 2020, apparently.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that. Total War Arena, Total War Battles, Kingdom, Unreal Tournament. Are you kidding? I still go. Man, you know how like sometimes with these articles we veer away as quickly as possible. I felt like we looked into we looked directly into the vortex this time round.
Yeah.
We probably should move on to another corner before we lose absolutely everybody who isn't a gamer. For those of you,
we're in too deep.
For those of you who are interested, I will leave a bunch of wiki links in the show notes in the description on this one because, whoo boy, yeah, we went in a bit too deep. Okay,
you're in for a treat.
Right, we should probably move on to Critics Corner.
Okay, here we go.
Now, Dan, somebody suggested, I think it was me, in one of the previous episodes, that possibly we should do a Dan's Choral Corner. Would you like to do a Choral Corner as your Critics Corner for what you've been doing recently?
That'd be cool.
So what have you been singing?
Because that's basically all I've been doing. I haven't really watched or listened to much at all.
Because I got halfway into saying we should talk about the events of the weekend, but then we actually found something interesting to talk about anyway. But well, for example, what did you get up to this weekend, Dan?
This weekend, Simon, I sang many, many things. I sang very loudly, probably too much. It was crazy. So, for those who don't know, Simon came down to Exeter this weekend
to
because it was
indeed.
Yes, it was the Jubilee anniversary.
The Diamond Jubilee. It was
the Diamond Jubilee of the Mary Harris Chapel. On the University of Exeter campus, so loads of people. I mean, we had people back from like who were there in like the 60s.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 people who were there from when the chapel was consecrated. Who were a student 60 years ago, which is nuts.
I mean, I actually have I helped.
Yeah. Oh, sorry,
I've got that order of service.
Yeah, from that service,
and I framed it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it actually goes up next to my gift from Exeter University Singers. Shout out to Exeter University Singers. Was the kind of the waveform recording of the Trinity Te Deum that we did in Exeter Cathedral, printed out with like a thank you from them to me, and then next to that is the order of service from the consecration of the Mary Harris Memorial Chapel on the University of Exeter, and it's quite cool. It's really it's a lovely order of service, but I wanted to get it in a frame, so that's up now. But yeah, we had loads of music. There was so much going on. Not only was it the Diamond Jubilee of the Chapel, it also coincided with kind of the alumni reunion service that we do. So loads of alumni came down from the chapel choir. There were services and concerts and the installation of the new choral scholars, much like I remember I spoke about my installation at Exeter Cathedral. This year, Michael the director of chapel music, decided to install the scholars with a chapel choir, which I think is a really nice idea. So we did all that, and then it was also the symphonic evensong weekend as well, where the chapel choir and an orchestra and the cathedral choir team up and do an evensong service, but accompanied with an orchestra. Now, you couldn't make that, could you?
I couldn't. No, I had to get Pixel back ready for teaching. But I trust it was loud.
It was spectacular, yeah. So the canticle setting was Stanford in B flat, which is always a good choice. "Great is the Lord" by Elgar was the psalm, because the text is taken from Psalm 30, 60, something.
One of them, between 1 and 150.
Yeah. And the introit was "My Beloved Spake" by Hadley, Patrick Hadley, which is an awesome piece. In fact, I'll add that as one of my choral corner. Give that a listen,
and if you can,
listen to that one first, and then listen to the version with orchestration, because it's like a different piece. It's really just wonderful. I had some other things with the cathedral too, in terms of, so other than singing with the cathedral choir, there's also St. Peter's Singers, which was the voluntary choir that used to have about 45 people. It was huge, and then there was a big cull.
Jesus! And all the old people were killed off.
Yeah, basically. And now it's a kind of a chamber choir size of about 24. In fact, probably not maybe about 20. But as choral scholars, we have to sing, and so that means you've got one choral scholar at least on each part, on each side, deck and can, the two sides of the choir.
Right.
But we've been preparing for various different things. We're doing the De Ruffle Requiem, which is very nice indeed.
I prefer it to the foray. I think
I think it's an absolutely a more musically complex piece, but the foray has its place, because if you had a massive choral society full of shit munching old people, will be my my term for them, then you'd probably be more successful doing the foray than you would be with doing with the De Ruffle.
Yeah,
it's because you'd probably kill half your choir doing the De Ruffle.
It's also the foray is an easier listen. Like it's got nice sort of I think the term is lollipop music. It's kind of, everyone goes, oh, that was nice. Whereas with like the De Ruffle, you're like, wow, Jesus, I'm deaf.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it's just been a bit, it's a bit of mental time, really, but it's been very good. But yeah, My Beloved Spake, Hadley, orchestrated and just organ. Listen to the organ first, then listen to the orchestrated version. And do email in spongyelectric@gmail.com and tell me what you think. It's very fine.
What's your choral piece of the week? I quite like this, having a choral piece of the week from what you've been singing. That's fun.
Use the hashtag choralcast, and we'll
to get 10% off your next piece of choral music.
Yeah.
And we'd also like to sell you this mattress, because we're a podcast and we haven't had an advert for a mattress yet, which means we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, we also haven't got a thing with Squarespace, which I feel is actually to be admired given how long we've been going.
Or Backblaze, or basically all the brands who do stuff with the agency that I'm with, like all the people that people like to take the piss out of, for having the same sponsors. It's because we're all in a club together that have this connection to industry. So if we wanted, I'm pretty sure I could get us one of those sponsorships. But considering we've now laughed at their expense, I feel like that's not probably going to happen anymore.
I think if we're going to be sponsored by anyone, I want it to be like the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans or something. Like that'd be so good, and I'd eat all the swans if they didn't make it out. There is a really funny photo, actually. I think it's on If You Love Memes, of John Rutter with a swan, and the caption is just like, "There's nothing funny about this photo. It's just John Rutter with a swan."
Oh, I think I've seen that one. Yes.
Yeah.
If You Love Memes, great meme page. I will link
the
that.
John Rutter. Incidentally, for those, and you are so important to the podcast, for those who write fan fiction, please, in the next edition, can there be a mention of the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans? In fact, I love that so much that I think I'm going to make a t-shirt.
Well,
just for me to wear. I'm actually doing that tonight before I go to bed. I'm going to print and make a t-shirt. And
John Rutter. Well, and as we know, when Dan says he's going to do something, he always follows through and does it exactly. It does exactly what he says he's going to do. So next week we will hear a review. We'll see a post on social media of it, and we will hear a review of Dan's new T-shirt. I think it's great you've committed to that. That is wonderful.
Yeah. I just had my my scholarship pay through, so if there's anything I'm going to waste it
just on, splash cash around.
Yeah, it's a T-shirt.
What was I going to say? Yes, because we do have a fan fiction this week. We mustn't forget. We also, I'm so excited because we have an unusual critics corner this week. Sorry, not critics corner, crisis corner, because we're following up from last week. We also have some incredible follow up from the article last week, which we'll get to in correspondence corner, and we have a fan fiction. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So
it's gonna be amazing.
In terms of if I was going to criticize something, I have been guiltily, it's got to be said, it's been a guilty pleasure watching the Shane Dawson documentary on Jake Paul, and I feel kind of dirty admitting that because it is so pulpy. It's have you watched it at all?
What was this? Sorry.
This was. Thanks for paying attention.
No, sorry. I'm on street shirts. I'm already looking at how much I have to spend to get one printed.
I think it's great. You're committing.
I'm going to close that tab.
No, you go ahead. This was Shane Dawson's documentary about Jake Paul.
Oh right, okay.
Which has been the talk of the town. He has done, actually, as at the time of recording, let's date this thoroughly. At the time of recording, he has done, I think it's 5, though I will just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 videos about Jake Paul. Each of them has at least 13 million views. And they're they're all over 40 minutes long. So I did read a BBC article that estimated that between the sponsorships that he's got for these, because those are sponsored videos, and the ad revenue, he might be making like $2 million this month, which is insane. Much like Jake Paul, but it's a very, very trashy documentary series. Like, have you watched any of Shane Dawson's stuff? Like, he did the TanaCon documentary.
I think I would have seen bits of what he does, but I just couldn't give a toss, to be honest.
Yeah, he occupies a part of the YouTube ecosystem that's like, he is an OG. He has been on YouTube for so long. And I respect his staying power, and he has 18 million subscribers, and he seems to have, retained a large aspect of what got him into it in the first place. Like, he hasn't changed that much. Obviously, he's evolved, but he as a person, you can tell, hasn't changed that much. And I respect that, and he kind of came to prominence, to me at least, with the videos he did about TanaCon, which was this utterly disastrous competitor to VidCon that resulted in fans getting like 3rd-degree sunburns and lawsuits everywhere.
I remember hearing about this. Yeah,
it was an absolute dumpster fire of a thing, and he made some interesting videos about it, sort of talking, because he knew Tana, who founded it, and talked to her and the team who made it, and so apportioned blame. But generally, it was quite frothy. It was quite frothy, and it didn't get into a lot of detail, and it didn't. He held back a bit. He was too nice. And with this documentary about Jake Paul, he has effectively, as far as I've got, because I've watched the first 4, he has talked to a Catty Brennan, the sort of YouTube psychologist, about what is a sociopath, and basically got her to read from a psychology textbook definition of sociopathic behavior, and then react going, oh my God, that's him, to every single one of the criteria. And with lots and lots of over-the-top editing that make it out like it's a horror film, and just like very, very overhyped reactions to it. And then looked at Jake Paul, Logan Paul, their parents, and then talking to the people who were in his boy band, like, his band of vloggers.
His inner circle.
Yeah, because they have a thing called Team 10, that was a bunch of vloggers who shared a house, and they did loads and loads of stuff, and they did like music videos together, and it was like a thing. It was a bit like the Yogscast, but full of awful people. A bit like a Yogscast entirely made of hat films. Except, they do stupid stuff like set their swimming pool, fill their swimming pool with like petrol and set it on fire, or like kidnap each other, and a bunch of really objectionable stuff that they've done.
Lowest common denominator rubbish.
Yeah, but also the fact that Jake Paul, and this is based on, I haven't watched his stuff. This is based on this series and also on a video by I can't remember the name of the dude, but it was an excellent video that I will put in the description. Hang on, Jake Paul Worst Nightmare, I think it was called. What was this dude's name? Excellent Nerd City, that was it. Really much better documentary about why Jake Paul is an awful human being.
Isn't that the town that you're mayor of?
Nerd City, yes. I'm honorary mayor, and I head up the Women's Institute. I do cake testing every Tuesday. Nice. It was lovely last night. And yeah, Nerd City did this amazing video which kind of was quite eye-opening in terms of how Jake Paul targets a young audience, kind of sub-13, including, weirdly, a real focus on babies, but then fills his content with over 50% of it is adverts of one form or another, and telling kids to get their parents to buy his merch. And like very, very questionable business practices. And then what Shane Dawson's videos has gone into is how manipulative he is as a person, and how he's almost certainly a sociopath, and kind of the weird world that he occupies. And the most recent one, he actually meets him and interviews him with all the previous episodes having come out, like it seems to be being made in real time. And it's I don't know. I'd be very interested to get readers to write in with what they think. I have enjoyed watching it, but it is not a rigorous, even well-made documentary series. It's also, these videos could be 10 times shorter. I could have watched in half an hour the entire probably 8 videos he's going to make. I don't even know how many he's going to make in the end. But in half an hour, I could get everything and have not lost a single thing. Yeah. Well, no, because the thing is, he's printing money. Like, admittedly, he replied to the article that I read. He tweeted, somebody tweeted at him this article saying he could make $2 million this month, and he tweeted a reply being like, "Well, I'm not." So, but all the same, he is going to be making so much money from doing this.
It's crazy.
He has defined now a genre of people watching the documentary series, like doing react stuff. That's how you know you've made a splash. When people do react stuff to your thing of another thing. So yeah, I've been watching that, and it's been troubling. It's like watching Love Island. I know it's bad, and it's not a good influence on society. But it gets you hook, line and sinker, and then you can't really stop. Yeah, and I enjoy it. So
speaking of getting people hook, line and sinker.
You've been fishing?
I went fishing. Yeah. Nice, well done. No, I introduced James, my housemate, to The Man in the High Castle, because I didn't realise they've only gone and made a bloody 3rd season and didn't tell me.
How rude!
I know. So I was on Amazon Prime the other day, and I saw it was being advertised, and I said to James, "Oh, you really should. We should watch this first episode. I'd happily watch it again. It's really great. I think you'll really like it." And then I saw season 3 and spat tea everywhere, just absolutely blown away. So I think I'm going to kind of watch on and off the first and second season again, just to kind of get back into it, and then know that I've got resting somewhere season 3 to watch.
I see. I still need to watch it.
Very good. It's really good, Simon. You really should. You'll like it.
I know. Having funny. Actually, you should mention about new series, because Pixel Girl and I have just started watching The Good Place season 3, which has just come out. And I know that you. Well, the last report we had was that you'd watched the pilot, and then you were like, "I'm going to give it a few more episodes." But by your tone, I can tell that it did not go well.
Yeah, nah. I think I watched another episode and then went, "F*** this, it's rubbish." I've been rewatching. Okay, I have watched some things. I've been rewatching Bake Off.
Oh yeah, we've been watching the new series. Season, yeah,
which is awesome. I haven't seen the new series. I've only seen episodes 1 and 2 of the new series, but I've gone back through Netflix and watched it. I'm slowly going through each season again, which is quite fun. But I watched season 2 of Big Mouth.
Oh, I've heard of Big Mouth. I've not seen it.
Yeah. It's really weird and really gross, and it's about kind of puberty in it's just funny. Like, it's really crude.
Oh, it's the cartoon. Yes.
Yeah. It's really funny. I think it's pretty great. I don't really go for that kind of stuff, but for some reason it kind of clicked with me, and it's quite the first season was great, and they've just released the second season, and I've already demolished that. So it's worth a watch. It's quite funny. As I say, it's crude. Don't judge it. Don't judge me for watching it. But
so you
like it.
So did you say you'd watched the first 2 episodes of the most recent series?
Yes, of Bake Off. Yeah.
So you're basically a few episodes off being up to date.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your money on based on those episodes that you've seen?
The French one.
If you don't pick Manon, you're a idiot. Because she's French. She's got she's got a natural advantage. She grew up like baking her entire life. Having said that, the girl from Bristol who's got one hand, which is
one eye,
she's the old one eye, the old Tyrannid Carnifex. No, she's got one hand, and then her other hand is I think she has one digit on it. She has been doing phenomenally well. I wouldn't be surprised if she takes it, actually, based on the rest of the season. So, wow. Yeah, but it doesn't hurt that Manon is, I think, very, very attractive.
Yeah, I think she'll probably win because she seemed very good in the episodes I've seen. My only criticism is the Great British Bake Off, and Brexit means Brexit, so I can't believe that we...
Oh God, here we go.
High church and hard Brexit. That's what this country needs.
That is 100% something that you've heard someone say in the cathedral, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I've heard Hugo Wickham say it. Oh, shout out to Hugo Wickham.
Huge, noted xenophile. Yeah. Sorry, xenophobe, even, not xenophile. That's completely different.
Yeah. But there you go. That's my. I mean, I don't really have anything else to criticize. I've given my choral things. Corner. So I think without much further ado.
Oh, actually, wait, very briefly, very briefly before we move on, I should say I have been reading La Belle Sauvage. Actually, no, it's not called that. It's called What is it called? It's the Book of Dust, the prequel to his Dark Materials that Philip Pullman released.
Oh yeah.
And presumably you've read his Dark Materials.
Yeah.
Yep. This is great.
Those are the Amber Spyglass, Subtle Knife.
Yeah, Northern Lights, or the Golden Compass if you're in America, the Subtle Knife and Amber Spyglass, and then this is apparently a new trilogy which takes place before, and it focuses on. What's lovely about it is that it takes place just outside Oxford, and obviously, having been there, I know everywhere that he mentions, and I know the geography, but like it's slightly altered, which is it's great. But yeah, you actually meet up with a lot of the characters from his Dark Materials. Like you meet Lord Asriel relatively early on, and the Egyptians, and you actually meet Lyra. Baby Lyra is quite important to the story. I'm about halfway through, and basically, if you liked his Dark Materials, I highly recommend it. I am loving it. Okay. Very, very enjoyable read. But that'll go. I'm going to do a book video at the end of the month, so I need to finish it by then. Yeah. Basically, that was I just wanted to add that in because it's a delightful read.
Absolutely, I'll make a note.
But as you were,
yeah. Well, I was going to say we should probably nip on over to Crisis Corner, but
before we go there,
we mustn't forget about our patrons.
Oh, saved. Top lad.
I have the ears of a fox and the eyes
of a fox.
I'm a fox. Okay. Do you want? Shall I do a lead in then?
Yes. Yeah, you go on. You do you.
Oh heavens! Right. Sorry, I'm just rearranging myself. I'm in my pajamas. It's all hanging loose. Right. So we find ourselves. Nice. Well done, Dan.
That's going. We find ourselves in Patreon Corner with an English student. So
you can. Just so much.
So what's happening here, Dan? This place is all covered in gold.
Yeah, well, it's a very special place. It's a place where readers, such as maybe you, reader, who's listening right now, can come and support the podcast in whichever way you choose. There are several different tiers. We like to cater to all and everyone, but this particular part of the podcast is here so we can say thanks to our top lads. Really, our top lads pledge $5 a month, and for that, well, you can actually see, if you head over to our Patreon, you can see each goal that we've managed to achieve. So it includes our donation to Wikipedia. It includes our when we released merchandise, which was so long ago. Can you remember when that was?
I think it was March. It was quite a few months ago. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I mean, it sounds like we might have some more merch now with the the John Rutter School for Incapacitated Swans.
The John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans. It's great because it makes it sound like he's dead.
Sponsors. Which we all wish.
Which is just so funny. I'm going to wear it to the cathedral one day.
Can we work Wikicast sponsorship into it? Can we have as if it was as if it was for a charity event that the Memorial Home for Injured Swans did, and then the Wikicast sponsored it, and so our branding is also on it.
Yeah.
Can you make that? Can you somehow make that into a design?
I'll try and do that. I'll try my very best.
John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans Fun Run 2018.
Yes, that's the one.
Proudly sponsored by the Wikicast.
It's going to be on the back. It's going to say, proudly supported by the Wikicast. And it's going to be like a date.
Can we then we could then put a list of our top lads.
We should then also find like a generic map of a run and put that on the back of the t-shirt.
It's gold, Jerry. We've got to do it.
It's going to happen. I don't care how much money I spend on it. I will make this happen.
Oh, my God. Well, the money that will make that possible will come from our top lad patrons.
It's just going to be insane.
I'd like to point out that we did set a $200 a month goal of... Basically, we can pay extortionate amounts to feature guests. We will always feature guests if we can find them, so that's actually meaningless. But if we get to $500 a month, Dan will wear a gimp suit. So,
oh God,
that is a thing that's going to happen.
So don't worry, we're actually doing all right. It's fine.
No, I actually think that we need plenty more sponsors. Well, for the time being, we should thank our top lads, and we will get to the people who are supporting in other ways just after this list of people. But to begin with, I'd like to thank Ben Dent, who actually I met. He came to chapel. He was visiting a friend at Exeter.
And he came to mass the next day. We had a cup of tea after.
I thought he was going off. Oh,
well, I think he was, but then he said he was going to go and meet a friend, and he thought he'd stay anyway. But no, he came up, and we had a chat in the nave after Eucharist. It's very lovely.
Lovely guy, wasn't
he? What a lovely boy.
What a lovely man. And he supports us by $5 a month at patreon.com/the Wikicast. We're always bad at that. We never say what the URL is. It's in the description, but it's patreon.com/the Wikicast. Anyway, thanks Ben. You're a top lad. And you also support the podcast. And I'd also like to thank Ben McMurtry and Billy Tolson.
I would like to thank Choco Cat, Connor Levers, and Dan Hanvey. Dan Hanvey, of course, who is he's off now, isn't he?
He's away. He's in the land of the Danes and the extraordinarily attractive women who doubtless are falling at his feet right now. Dan, be careful. Watch your step. Yeah. Do not trip over those women, okay? You'll get out of breath, and we don't want that.
We also have Davi Schramm Vonterbell, David Scahill, and Elliot Conway.
We also have Eric Davis, Habiba Amjad, who I believe has Twitter, and Henry Brewster.
Isabel Ostrowski, Jay Wright, and John Mannion.
If loving this podcast is Jay wrong, I don't want to be right.
Nice.
I'm working with what I've got here. I'd personally like to give thanks to Geordie Eschendahl, Kyle Much, and Lachlan Woods.
How much do you want to thank him?
There we go.
Yeah, nice. God, we're so lame. Lewis Watson, Lindsay Van Ryn.
Oh, a new challenger appears.
No, we have to cut that. I don't think that's the right one.
No, I think that she's just joined since the Patreon's the money's been taken. So I think she's a new challenger. Welcome to the family.
I'll do another lead because that's really embarrassing.
No, I can edit that. That'd be fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it'll be fine. I can edit that.
Okay.
I'm an editing god, Dan.
Okay. We also have Lindsay Van Ryn, Kira Punyawat, and Matt Maguire.
Thanks also to Fee Gascoigne, Rory Healy, and Simon Torseth.
Tapio Kirkinen, the Moustache Man, and Wonderful Stephen.
Oh, he's changed it on Patreon as well. That's the Moustache Man, but because it's Halloween, it's the Boo-Stache Man.
Oh, it's so spoopy.
We should do a Halloween special. You know how the Yog Pod always used to do a Halloween special?
Oh my god, yeah, let's do it.
We should totally do a Halloween special. We'll have to, yeah. What should we do? Patrons. What we'll do on our Patreon, we will put a poll, and we will say to people, what would you like us to do for a Halloween special? And whatever is the most popular suggestion, we will do. That is probably a terrible idea, but if you're a Patreon, you can vote on that. So there we go. That's an incentive to go to patreon.com/the Wikicast and support.
If you can
the
think
podcast.
of a Halloween guest, perhaps we could do a special with a guest.
Like who? Jack Skellington?
Peter Robinson with a spider. That's quite scary.
Peter's scary enough on his own. God,
Peter's lovely.
I would love to get Peter on as a guest. It would be the funniest thing in the world.
It would be brilliant, yeah.
Peter, darling, if you're listening to this, please get in touch, because we would love to have you on.
But yeah, if you have any suggestions on who we might be able to interview as a Halloween-y combined special spooktacular, then do email us spongyelectric@gmail.com.
But for the time being, our entirely non-spooky patrons who support Team Dog and Team Cat have been donating $1 a month to help keep the lights on, keep us donating to Wikipedia. In fact, I might change one of the goals of the Patreon. If we can get up to $200 a month, then we can up our donation to Wikimedia. That'd be a good thing to do. I will make a note of that. But people have been donating $1 a month to either Team Dog or Team Cat, depending on who they think is the supreme household pet. And Dan, it's a sorry state of affairs.
It is a sorry state of affairs, Simon. Team Dog are still in the lead with 34 patrons to a measly 26 for Team Cat. Team Dog, well done. Showing the others how it's done.
Come on, Team Cat, flock to me, come to me, and go to patreon.com/the Wikicast and donate $1 a month to Team Cat. It literally, a lot of the money just goes straight back to Wikipedia or to hosting the podcast. And then the other stuff is going to go for the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans 5K Fun Run 2018, as sponsored by the Wikicast t-shirts.
Yes,
God,
absolutely.
I need to come up with a catchy name for that project.
I'll just make it one long anagram.
So, hang on. So it's the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans Fun Run 2K18. Do we want to? Yeah, that's the JRMHFISFR 2K18.
Yeah, see, it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, much like water off an injured swan's back.
Absolutely. There we go. What I might do is when I get these t-shirts done, I'll take a photo and put it up into the If You Love Memes page.
Oh, God.
I'll send it to the people, because I think I now know the people who. Well, I met people who know the owners of that page, and I'm going to see if they'll release a photo saying, like, proudly sponsoring the fun run. Good luck at the weekend for those living in, like, Chipping Norton or something.
Some absolutely ridiculous made up name.
I have a little bit more reading to do before a seminar tomorrow, but I know full well I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay on my laptop for 2 hours planning this t-shirt.
Oh God, I am so behind this. I think that'd be hilarious. Like, our second piece of merch. Like, we could do, I don't know, we could probably even do, like, we could redo the Wikicast t-shirts and then a limited edition.
Yeah. Well, how about then, if I get the design done and it actually doesn't look too bad, it might be a limited merch release. We might release it, depending on if the t-shirt looks any good. I'll get a test one done, and if I like it and Simon likes it, then we'll see what we can do. But they'll be very limited.
Very limited. Stop
very
it,
limited.
Ralph.
Yeah, stop.
Stopping provided by Raffle.
Right, okay. Well, without further ado, Simon, we have to move on to our next segment of the podcast, which I believe is Crisis Corner.
It's a special edition of Crisis Corner. Top lad. So, dear readers, we have a special episode this week because last week Dan and I failed. That in itself is not special. That happens every single week, pretty much. In fact, pretty much every day. But what we did was we failed to give what we thought was adequate advice to Anonymous, who wrote in detailing his experiences of basically living in a university in rural Missouri, where he's living with a bunch of intolerant housemates. And in particular, there is a terrible housemate that Anonymous really doesn't get along with, partly because they are anti-LGBT and Anonymous is LGBT themselves. They identify as bi, though they have a girlfriend, I believe they said. So, you know, there's an obvious tension there, but from the sounds of things, it's just a human being. So we open the floor up to our readers who have responded with their thoughts on the crisis. So rather than us introducing a new crisis this week, we're going to have our readers respond to a reader in need. And a reader in need is a reader indeed. So this is our way of, hopefully, Anonymous, let's get you some good advice. So actually, Dan, do you want to... I've been talking for a while. Would you like to read our first response to Anonymous's plight?
Absolutely. So we've got another anonymy.
And the anonymies are...
yeah. Coming to the aid of Anonymous. Anonymy goes on to say, hello, long-time reader, second time attempting at writing, but the first time didn't work.
As a non-straight snap. Oh, sorry, carry on.
As a non-straight POC gal, I've had my fair share of absolute nonsense from people, be it sexism to being called various Middle Eastern slurs, despite being Caribbean. I mean, I technically have only really come out to about 5 people in my life, none of them relatives, due to this spicy thing called ignorance.
It's a spicy meme.
Nice, it's a spicy boy. And technically my friend outed me, so I'm not exactly an expert. However, I know my fair share of people who gladly would rid the world of me. Lucky Lee.
Brother of Bruce Lee.
That was my I got halfway through the word luckily and my brain went, it. doesn't matter.
Oh god, this is the most serious part of any podcast we've ever done, and we're f***ing it up left, right and centre. Come on, focus, man.
Luckily, my flatmates here in Exeter, are generally quite accepting. From a perspective of someone who had to seriously think about these kind of things, I feel like it's a really situation-based issue. It's all about safety. If a non is going to get their ass kicked or won't have anywhere to stay, then I totally would not recommend outing themselves. As for trying to get them to stop shouting abuse, I feel there are some people that are beyond help, and sometimes trying to change their mind can be dangerous to you. Been there, ended pretty badly. Thankfully, not violently. In summary, as long as a non is safe, I don't know if this was any use.
That's Anonymous writing that, not Dan. I don't think that was any use at all. What a email.
Yeah, not on me. You what are you doing? No, I mean, brilliant. Anonymy's got a really good point. I think we both said at the end of last week's, the most important thing is self-preservation and making sure that you're safe. And Anonymy has agreed with us there, but equally they've also offered some really, really kind of valuable points because they've been in a similar situation. So thank you, Anonymy.
I think it's interesting.
Plenty of use.
It's interesting that Anonymy has so basically not even considered the possibility of moving out. I feel like it's basically standing your ground. You should be allowed to live where you are. It's then a question of, are you honest with these people about who you are? And I feel exactly, it is situation based, and you have to consider the practicalities. Where are you going to live if things turn ugly? And as you say, they might turn ugly. So the safety aspect is very important. At the end of the day, that is the most important thing. Also, Anonymy writes, unofficially Team Cats. Thank you very, very much. Also, without sounding too weird, it was lush to accidentally bump into Dan. Hope you're doing okay now, bud. How hard did she bump into you?
It was a massive bump.
She was pregnant.
Dun dun dun. Thanks, Anonymy. It was lush to bump into you too. Big Yeats. P.S. Why did Simon say Uranus like that? I don't know how you said it. Do you say Uranus or Uranus?
I think I said Uranus. I think you can get away with both. I think Uranus is the accepted pronunciation, but
whereas like Uranus is not allowed.
Your anus, just the pun potential is so high. Like
I don't know anyone who's called it your anus.
Your anus has rings around it, and it's gigantic.
Yeah.
Did you know Uranus has 62 moons?
Uranus is a gas giant.
As is Venus. Thank you, Smith from Hat Films. Actually, how many moons does Uranus have? I'm just going to double check that because it's a lot.
Simon. That's no moon.
Very, very, very good meme.
Meme.
It has 27 known moons, and I did know this one. Do you know
how many unknown moons?
Well, they're unknown unknowns. That's the thing. Sorry, no, they're known unknowns, so we don't know. Do you know what they're all named after? Because there's a naming convention with the outer planet moons.
No. Are they going to be named after gods or constellations or something about mythology?
They're all named after characters from Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. So the 6 largest moons are Puck, Miranda, Ariel, Umbriel, Titania, and Oberon.
Cool.
They're great names for moons.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, but back to the show. So we have another anonymous reader who has written in. This is Anonymouse. Anonymouse writes, "Dear Dan and Simon, I've never written to you before, but I didn't feel I could contribute much, but the story of the anonymous writer really hit home with me. I come from a Middle Eastern, which is very homophobic, sexist, and against any notion of liberalism." I think there's a family that's missing in there. Middle Eastern family, which is very homophobic, sexist, and against any notion of liberalism. I and countless others have been through what Anonymous has been through and have seen firsthand the backfire from the 2 options he mentioned that he had. In the first option, where people here would express themselves, they get a huge backlash in the beginning, whether it was from friends, family, or the public. However, after a while, everybody calms down, even if they don't agree with you, because realistically, they can't really change you, can they? And the ones who are in a similar situation actually come out to you. In the second option, where people have kept quiet, me being one of them, have always felt dishonest with ourselves because we just put our heads down and not comment when we hear a sexist, racist, or immoral comment, but we go on living without those major clashes. Therefore, I think being in his situation, he has to think whether he's willing to fight for a while until they accept him, which in my opinion demands a huge amount of bravery and patience, but on the other hand, he would get to be himself, which is the greatest freedom one could ever have, or he just has to swallow some liberal thinking and just keep his life free from clashes until he leaves university. That is an important point, actually, is that whatever Anonymous decides to do isn't forever. It is for university, and it's a horrible situation to be in, but there is a time limit on it. You will eventually leave that university. You will leave that situation, even if it's only for the end of this year, and then you can move out. That is still too long for you to have to put up with the situation. But, it is worth bearing in mind that, that time frame does exist. And I feel like Anonymouse makes a good point that if you do come up, there is that huge backlash, which will happen. It's, bigots are the same the world over. People don't like people who aren't like them, really. And that backlash is basically, the question is, how long is that backlash going to last? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be a week, a month, or a year? And if it's is the trade-off going to be worth it? And I suspect that the amount of grief and hate and flaming that Anonymous will have to deal with will be longer than he's going to stay at university. Like, he's not going to change these people's minds in the amount of time that he's at university. Assuming it's actually,
which I guess is why again it came back to I think the one thing we agreed on was self-preservation.
Yeah,
it's finite, and I just think it's so good. I mean, we before we jumped into this segment, there's usually a couple of minutes of Simon and I just having a brief kind of stock check of what we're doing. But it was so lovely to see how many people have emailed in. Anonymous, I hope this is some use. If anything, just a comfort to know that people have written in and are sympathising and know you're in the same situation as you. You're not on your own. It's really heartwarming. I
mean, I love this community. I think that you guys are weird as f***. It's got to be said, but you're lovely. You're a bit like a kind of the community study group, all nuts. But we're a weird, bizarre family together, and we support Anonymous and Anonymouse and Anonymy. We could need to invent some more names. Just show that. But wait, there's more, and he's going to read another email.
We've got an email here from an enemy for Anonymous. An enemy says, "I really identified with the anonymous reader this week. I also attend a STEM university in rural Missouri, possibly the same one. I'm gay, but have only come out to a few close friends from my hometown, which is a much more liberal state.
Oh, wow.
I decided to come here. Yeah, stay tuned. I decided to come here because it's a good school for engineering and I'm getting a scholarship to play football, but I found myself surrounded by people who are less accepting of people different to themselves. I found it very, very difficult to become close with anyone because I'm not my true self with them. My parents are very conservative too, so I can't even talk to them. My roommates aren't explicitly racist, but they're very conservative, use homophobic slurs, and don't think white privilege exists."
Eesh.
I contemplated transferring to another school where I could be more happy, but I just kept telling myself I could wait it out. I'm now in my final year and nothing has changed. My advice to Anonymous would be to find people who you're comfortable being completely yourself with. I know this is hard because even I haven't done it, but I know that there are people, even here in rural Missouri, who are accepting. For my humanities elective courses, I've taken a couple of linguistics classes, and it amazed me how differently people in those classes were to the others who I've interacted with on campus. They've used inclusive language and we're actually aware of the inequalities that exist in our country. My point is that people like that do exist, and you have to stick, and you don't have to stick with the friends you have that you know. Best regards, Anuni Moose.
An enemy.
No, it was an enemy.
Well, and also an enemy writes, you can give Anonymous my email in case they'd like to talk. So that is, if they are at the same college, that is mind blowing that we possibly connected these people.
If that is the case, that is the coolest thing that this podcast's ever done.
I mean, to be honest, I think this section is arguably the most important section we've ever done.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've actually finally... this is like a lightning rod for people who have been in similar situations to share their experiences. And this is the power of social media, but it's anonymized social media. People they're not asking for acclaim, they're not asking for credit, they're not going to get anything out of this other than they know they're going to help someone, or at least they're going to try and help someone. I think that is so wonderful, guys.
Anonymous, incidentally, if you're listening and you're hearing all this feedback, we will forward you an enemy's email address if you'd like to get in contact.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just astonishing to me that, it shows how much of a bubble we're in, that these issues exist. There's a whole university where this is an issue. And, and as an enemy writes, that there are pockets of the university, what was it, in a linguistics class?
Yes,
where people are aware, and it boggles my mind that that's the thing.
Light can be found in even the darkest of places. All you must do is turn on the light.
Thank you, Dumbledore.
Albus Dumbledore.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me. I mean, obviously, it's sort of a different level of discrimination, but it reminds me of the Underground Railroad. Like Colston Whitehead talking about the Underground Railroad and how people in southern states helped slaves escape to the north. And, even in this environment where people hated black people who were willing to fight a war to retain slavery. I know it's more complicated than that, don't at me. But, effectively, that was a core reason for the conflict. Even in that hostile environment, there are still pockets of people who understand, who get human decency, who were ahead of their time. And, eventually, I hope, the rest of the people at these universities are going to catch up. But, these people, as an enemy writes, they do exist, and you've got to find the light and turn it on, to paraphrase Dumbledore.
Absolutely.
But finally, then, should we have one more email in response? We have another email from Asbestos. It's quite difficult to think of these names, guys, on the fly. Asbestos writes, "Hey there, Wikicast. A friend of mine referred me to your podcast, episode 043, where you share on the Crisis Corner segment the story of the bisexual man stuck with what sounds like a terrible roommate. As a 22-year-old gay Californian man who took a year off school to meander around the great state of Missouri alone, long story in itself, I think I have a bit of insight that most coastal city dwellers may not have. First, only one school in all of Missouri fits the description Anonymous gave. If I'm correct, this school is located in the middle of the state, away from any of the large metropolises like St. Louis or Kansas City, is within a town of population smaller than 20,000 people, good God, whose student body is 75% or more male and offers absolutely no degrees that are not related to STEM fields." That does sound familiar. Also,
Exeter University has about 20,000 people.
Yeah, a town with a population smaller than 20,000 people. That's, I think, about as many people as live in my hometown, as in Keynsham, where I'm originally from. There's no way you could ever put a university in that town. That is bananas. Yeah. Anyway, that said, like Anonymous mentioned, there are clubs and groups that support minorities and the like. Hopefully he finds the support within these groups, some support within these groups, maybe enough to stand up for his identity and this troublesome roommate. However, despite the presence of these social groups, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself without the support he'd like. I can vouch for the normalcy of using slurs starting with N and ending with a hard R, using along with the acceptance and allowance of community members having bias against LGBT people. Few in the area would chide his roommate or professors for being anti-left ideals. My advice to the guy is to move out, but to avoid outing himself in the process. I believe his roommate may have more ideological support in the community, so outing oneself may be too risky. Maybe you guys can think of a decent excuse for wanting to move out. Anonymous did say he has a girlfriend, so telling his roommate that he wants a space for him and his girl doesn't sound unreasonable to me. Finally, it gets better. Hopefully Anonymous can move out to a more urban setting soon. Rural Missouri is beautiful and most people are well-intentioned, but there is definitely a hard streak of conservatism that pervades the culture. Get your degree and get out of there. I've never written to the show before, so hopefully this isn't too much text. Oh, he's never written to a show before. Well, Asbestos.
Oh, wow.
You've got a fantastic nickname in the process.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Asbestos.
A different sort of take on it, really. You know, I feel like I don't know. Sorry, what do you think, Dan? I've been talking.
Well, before we just looking at specifically what Asbestos says, it's been fascinating to see just the varied points of advice. I think Asbestos may be knitting. I think he might be hitting the nail on the head when he says, "Get your degree and get out of there."
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, could not agree more.
I still also can't believe that I'm pretty sure that
we've now connected to readers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean,
but to avoid outing himself in the process,
I think the plan that he's given, the plan that Asbestos has given, could work. I think if you did say it's basically the problem is like moving out in the middle of the year is always an odd thing to do. Like when was the last time you heard of somebody move house in the middle of a university year? It's I don't know. Maybe it's more common in the States, but certainly for here that would attract suspicion in itself. But that said, the excuse of moving in with his girlfriend holds water. You know, I feel like not many people are going to object to it if you have the capability to do so, and you haven't already paid for like 12 months in advance. You're already locked into the contract. Gosh, that has thrown something of a spanner in the works, because I felt like up until Asbestos' email, I was all ready to be like, I think you're going to have to stick it out. Just deal with the fact these people have small minds. Get your degree. Get out of there. It's going to be tough, but you're going to get through it. This has now offered an alternative, which is situation-based. Going back to the first email, entirely depends really on the parameters of your situation, Anonymous.
It also, I think in the last episode, I said that we may well get advice or multiple pieces of advice that could kind of allow you to do both things. Overcome the problem, but then also maybe not out yourself and hurt yourself in the process. And we've had that. We've absolutely had that. We've just needed some people who are a little bit more maybe in touch and can relate to the issue, which is exactly what we've received. Yeah. Amazing.
You know, maybe we should do this every week. I feel like we have just been so completely outclassed by our readers that now we should be like, well, we'll just tell you a crisis every week and we'll read out the responses next week. Wow, that's quite something. You know, we could do that, I suppose. That would certainly make life
that would
different from
that would be
Critics Corner. Sorry, from Correspondence Corner. If people like
one
the
of the things
sound
that this podcast, one of the things it's really good at is well, clearly connecting people, whether it's just online or maybe even in person, but because we have such a wide, varied listenership, readership rather,
Thank you.
we can probably do this segment better if more people, if you're listening and our chosen crisis of the week happens to be something you relate to, email in. We will always promise to keep it anonymous, or Asbestos, or Anemone.
We're gonna have to think of new names every time. This is gonna get
Annie Mouse,
Annie, get your gun.
But yeah, I think that this is going to be an official call to arms for this is going to be a new part of the segment of the podcast.
Wow. Okay, well, let's say briefly. Let us know if you think that's a good idea or not. Because if you don't think it's a good idea, then we can carry on as we have before. But I agree with Dan. I think that this would be a fun way of mixing things up a bit. So that the format would be that we would recap the crisis at the start of the section, read out correspondence relating to it, and then giving our take on it at the same time. And then at the end of the section, read out the crisis for the next week. Yeah. So I think that'd be great. The more interaction we get with the community, I think it's better, because I love hearing from you guys. And as we've shown this week, it can be very, very powerful advice. It can be very, very apt and, based on people's experiences. So, well done, team, I think.
Well done, everybody.
We've given Anonymous...
Give yourself a pat on the back.
We've given Anonymous a hug from the community. I'm patting myself on the back as well. And we've given some options. But, basically there is a cover now if you would like to move out. But equally, a lot of support if he chooses not to. But Anonymous will get you in touch with your fellow students. They quite possibly at the same university, which is nuts.
That's crazy.
And also, dear readers, if you are in crisis, you can send us an email at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We anonymise everything. If you put Crisis Corner in the subject line, we'll read it out in a future episode. But for now, should we read some lighter fare in Correspondence Corner, Dan?
Let's do it.
Well, I have been dying to get to this section, Dan, and do you know why?
Why?
Because we have an absolute cast iron legend in our inbox. And that legend is difficult to pronounce, but it's Vignesh Sivaramakrishnan. Sivaramakrishnan. I'm going to give Vignesh Sivaramakrishnan. I'm going to give that one a go.
Oh my god, I've just seen the email.
They have secured for us 4 ghost chili chocolates from Theo Chocolate. Unbelievable, Techers.
This is incredible. I'm going to have to stand. Hang on.
I'm standing.
This is unbelievable.
Last episode,
God, I can't wait.
We asked. It turned out that Vignesh was just down the road. Like they were from Seattle, I think it was that. There was somebody who said, I'm pretty sure it was Vignesh, who was just like, yeah, I can get it. And once they get it, they're going to post it to you, Dan. So I will leave that up to you to reply to them with an address in Exeter that they can post it to.
Absolutely. I'll try and think of a safe location.
Yeah. Oh no! I've just realised I've mixed up 2 people because we have another email from Kaito Durkee who says, "Greeting from Seattle. Long-time reader, first-time writer. I'm an aerospace engineering student at the University of Washington, and unbeknownst to me today, I live very near the Theo Chocolate Factory.
Oh my god, you're kidding.
Though I have yet to see the ghost chili chocolate in any stores here, I'm willing to aid you in acquiring one of the ghost chili chocolate bars, provided no one else has emailed in yet. Thank you for the wonderful non-content. I hope you'll be in touch." Well, Kaito, aged 7,219 days. And someone, incredibly, Vignesh beat you to it. Unbelievable. I literally can't believe this community sometimes, especially considering that we release over the weekend and we record relatively soon in the next week. Unbelievable.
Well done, everyone.
So Kaito is very kind, but Vignesh is solid gold.
Correspondence across the board for this episode has been absolutely brilliant.
That's me making a chef kiss.
Well done.
Excellent.
We have an email here too from Grace Carter saying, "Hi guys, I was just listening to the 42nd episode. You said that you didn't like The Book Thief. I agree it can be slow in places. The author, Marcus Zuzak's other book, very underrated. I Am the Messenger is very good. Set in Australia and follows a cab driver. I think you'd both like it. Best, Grace." Thank you for the recommendation. Grace, I shall order that and give it a read when I have a free moment.
I was going to say, it sounds like your kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think he's a very good writer. The Book Thief has its moments. I just found it really, really, really slow at points. But if we've got a kind of a recommendation for I Am the Messenger, then I shall pop to my nearest bookshop and see if I can pick one up.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know because the Book Thief is well written and it's very affecting at the end. I just think it drags. I really struggled to maintain interest in that book. So yeah, interesting recommendation. Next up, we have an email from Antoinette Epsilon who writes, "Hello, Simon and Dan."
Incidentally, outstanding name.
Antoinette Epsilon. I don't think that's their real name. I can see their real name in the email address, I think. Which is a lovely looking name, but I won't read it out in case it's meant to be private. Privyet. Hello Simon, incidentally, is also in large font with red highlighter, and Dan is in tiny font in brackets. Need some academic advice, Antoinette writes. So I just came home from a party with the bat from the piñata. I mean, there's no accent on the end, so the pinata. And I was wondering whether it would be appropriate to take it to the school to use it as a baton to whoop people's asses. Kind regards, Antoinette Epsilon. Ooh, I mean, what's your take on this one, Dan?
I'm going to go ahead and say maybe not appropriate.
But maybe. Funny.
But funny.
That is the thing.
If it's an inflatable bat and you're not going to do any damage and you're not going to go up to random strangers, you're going to use it on friends, then I would say absolutely.
Then it's useless. It must be hard iron.
Yeah.
Break their asses.
But equally, you do you.
Wow. I mean, we can't advocate violence. We cannot condone violence. But if it's funny,
but we can always advocate comedy.
We can always advocate comedy. So
because we need some.
To be honest, given what I know about the fandom, I think we got off very lightly with the sentence. So I just came home from the party with a bat from the piñata. Ellipsis. That could have gone in so many other directions, and I know the fandom. To be honest, I would love it if people started sending in Hat Daddy-esque
maybe
pseudo problems.
Maybe that's how the swan got injured.
Antoinette, you monster!
Oh, the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans will be getting in touch.
Well, that's why we need to do the fun run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Antoinette writes, P.S. I love the Wikicast, but I don't have any money. I'm poor, lol, but can support with 10 Thai bahts that was found near my fuse box. Well,
awesome.
If you'd like to email those somehow to us,
email us a picture of those 10 Thai bahts. That'd be fun.
I don't know what a Thai baht even looks like, actually. So I would be curious to find out. I don't want to Google it. I will let Antoinette let us know. But thank you very much, and basically hit people if it's funny. Otherwise, don't do it.
We have another email here from Bryce. Bryce says, Dear Messrs. Moore and Clark, I only recently found the podcast. Well, congratulations. And I've just reached episode 15, reading in order.
Good God,
I hope the podcast will continue in full strength. I've noticed that the last digest was posted quite some time after the digest before that. So I hope this is an exception, and in fact, you will continue on the podcast on a weekly basis. Of course, I realise that your busy schedules might prevent that, but I will be hoping. Thank you very much. BWD, age 22 and 5/12. Well, Bryce.
Since episode 15, we've absolutely kept to a weekly schedule.
Yeah. But there are, every now and then there are things that it just means that Simon and I can't do it, whether it's like seasonal holidays or just busy weeks and we can't find the time.
Yeah. We were lucky this week, to be honest, because you had an extra rehearsal and we only managed to squeeze this one in on the off chance.
But this is episode 44?
I think it's episode 44.
So you're in for an absolute treat, Bryce.
Once you get to this one, assuming you don't get bored in 29 episodes.
Poor Bryce is going to get to episode 30 and be like, oh, I hate this, and won't realise that we've read out his email.
Also, I love the idea that the Wikicast is a digest, like a reader's digest. We take all these articles, kind of condense them down, and we critique things, and we just put it all into one package for people. It is a digest. I like that. And then lastly in Correspondence Corner, before we get to our fan fiction, we have an email from Isabella Goosen. Also, email I am Goosen. Amazing. Dear Damon, firstly, Dan, Whitakers. I used to visit New Zealand every year when I was younger, and to this day, I always speak of Whitakers to everyone who claims that Cadbury's has the best chocolate. Dude, I remember it being the perfect sweetness, the perfect texture. My God, you brought back memories. So this was you.
Them sweet, sweet mems.
Waxing lyrical about this chocolate place.
They are superbly good.
I've never had it. If anyone would like to send us some Whittaker's chocolate, special points if it has crunchy harmonies. Do they do a bar with crunchy harmonies?
Get it? That's very fine.
But yeah, seriously, if people want to send us some Whittaker's chocolate, I want to know what I'm missing out on now.
I might try and see if I can order some, actually.
We could do a chocolate, we could do a Wikicast. Oh my God, we could do a Spongy and Electric video where we show our faces and we do a chocolate tasting test.
And we can theme it like Halloween because it's a trick or treat, and they can be the nice things in the it's all
and it's like, and we don't know if it's going to be a nice chocolate or a ghost chili chocolate.
We don't know if it's going to be Whittaker's or it's going to be
Theo's.
a ghost chili.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, people, if you're up for sending us chocolate, geez, how many times have we told people to email in this episode? If you would like to send us chocolate, then you can send us an email at spongyelectric@gmail.com, and you can send us chocolate.
Sort something out.
Secondly, I am. Oh, this is Isabella writing, by the way. Secondly, I am aware that both of you are very familiar with choral singing. You could say so, and especially Christian music. Recently, I auditioned for our KZN Youth Choir, a Christian choir based in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. What an awesome name!
Wow.
I found out that I got in last night, and I cannot help feeling as if I will feel out of place. I am not Christian, and to be honest, dudes, I'm not a big fan of the genre either. More of a classic rock fan. The thing is, I'm going to have to talk to people. Advice would be appreciated. Da Goose. Amazing nickname for one thing. Da Goose, big fan.
Da Goose, absolutely superb.
Da Goose has been cooked.
Wow. You're so hip and down with the kids, bless you. Don't the Christian music, I think, will surprise you. Unless you're not singing, I mean, you might be singing happy clappy gospel.
Oh, happy days.
Which has its place. Or the Roderick Williams responses. Have you heard these?
Oh yes, I have. They're bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah. So in an even song service, you have several different sections where certain music is sung. The service starts with the responses or the preces.
Shall I intone as if it's Seraphic Fire?
We can't. Well, you need to know the right intonation for the Roderick Williams responses because the Gloria. So Roderick Williams is I think is a jazz musician in America, and normally
you said that so dismissively. He's a jazz musician of some kind.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fine. He just shouldn't be writing choral music. You'll normally get something that'll be like, "Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Ghost," and then the choir will come in. What Roderick, or our friend Roderick, decides to do is go for something a little bit more like this. If I remember. It's "Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Ghost," and it's just like this most ridiculous. We'll add a note in the show notes of a link to these responses, but. They are.
So I think that the roundabout point that Dan was making was that it doesn't have to sound Christian.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I tried to make that point, but I just sang responses at you.
Yeah, you just got distracted by the music.
After Da Goose said, "I'm not a fan of the genre," I was like, okay, I'm hearing you, but I'm going to sing now.
like a cat with a shiny object. You're just distracted by it. Basically. I'm a classic rock fan. I wasn't a fan of choral music really at all when I joined Chapel Choir. I knew a couple of pieces. I joined because the girls were fit, and then I got really into it. That is the music, not the girls.
And the music, yeah.
I got really into a girl. I'm living with her. But it's let it grow on you. And I'm not Christian, and I've never really sort of taken an active part in the worship part of the services. I mean, from the sounds of things, you might not be doing services, you might be doing sort of concerts, so it might be a little bit different for you actually. But it's a relatively small part of the music, really. I will bet you that the person who's in charge probably isn't that religious, if at all, and they're probably there for the music, because the thing is, Christian music and choral music in particular just goes back so far. There's like 8 centuries of the stuff, and so
also Christian music and the English choral tradition are two very different things.
Yes, this is true.
So you're probably going to be doing stuff that's more modern and contemporary. Yeah, and fitting for a youth choir rather than the repertoire befitting a cathedral.
But the point being, there's a lot of it, so there's a lot of really good stuff out there. And like for example, we were talking about the Foray and the Jerusalem Requiems earlier. You don't have to be religious at all to sing that and really enjoy it, and or listen to it and really enjoy it. The fact that it's religious is kind of incidental. So I wouldn't stress about it. I just go there. I mean, you're going to have to talk to people. That will probably happen quite naturally because you're all doing something together. It will come up in conversation. You're
all fans of music. I would put money on the fact that there'll be absolutely people who are classic rock fans.
Oh yeah.
Also, you auditioned and you got in.
So you're good.
Which is really cool. Yeah.
But basically, just to round out, I was going to say that whenever we do Come and Sings, the alumni come up to Exeter University. I've yet to have an awkward experience where people just don't know what to say. Like, there is always a conversation to be had, either about the music or what you're singing, or about what they did, how they got into it. There's so many natural conversation starters, and then it will flow. Like, it will be fine. You're going to have a great time. I'm quite jealous the fact that you're now getting to enter this world for the first time, because we're jaded old bastards. Like, we don't get to experience the joy anymore.
Yeah.
But there we go.
But have an amazing time and email us after the first rehearsal. I'd be really curious to see how it went.
Absolutely. But what I'm also curious about, Dan, is to close out the episode, a fan fiction.
We have a new fan fiction. A new author. It's titled The Weatherman. It's written by Anna Bryan, 18 3/4. This was the PS, dogs are better than cats, PPS, you're wrong about The Last Jedi.
The doubly wrong person.
Yes. So without further ado...
How many adus did you give? That's the thing, though. I don't remember you ever giving any adus.
Many.
Well, let's not give any more.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm waiting. The music's kicked in already. Can you not hear it? It's definitely not added in afterwards.
Okay, sure. Oh yeah, I love this song.
Baby shark, do.
No. Oh, f*** off. Okay, here we go. Ready? The Weatherman, Chapter 1. A knock on the door interrupted Simon's work. He sighed and checked the time in the corner of the laptop screen. 3 hours had just passed so quickly, but still it was too early for Pixel Girl to have come home.
Baby shark, do. So I was providing the music.
Yeah, I'm fine, actually. The man at the door was short and slim, with a shock of dark hair drooping over his incredibly large forehead. Cheers, Anna.
I think I know who this is.
His features were adorned with a pair of glasses, which were, to put it kindly, Simon thought, the most conventional thing he was wearing. As he gazed over the little slim lad, he noticed his corduroy suit, embellished with a knitted tie and brightly coloured socks.
He was a fox.
Am I Richard Ayoade?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
I mean, I would love a suit like that, to be fair. His eyes were fixed on Simon with a calculating gaze. Somehow managing to look down his nose at the much taller man, it occurred to Simon that they'd been watching each other in silence for rather too long, and for propriety's sake, cleared his throat. Can I help you? When the visitor spoke, it was in a thick Australian accent. Now that line is crossed out. However, just for you, Anna. Yeah, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Dan. I was rather wondering if I could ask you a few questions. Wearisome, but it would give him a much-needed distraction from his work. There seemed to be no harm in the man, peculiar as he was. He nodded his head. Fine. Simon waited expectantly. Dan, eyebrows raised, stared back at Simon impatiently. He lifted his head and gestured at the space between Simon's shoulders. Do you want to come in? Simon asked, surprised. Is something wrong? I'd say. Yeah, a cup of tea might be called for. Simon hesitated. This wasn't normal. Could the visitor be a police officer? A detective? There was something reminiscent of a TV detective about him. An English Hercule Poirot, perhaps. Or more accurately, Albert Campion?
Hang on, an English Hercule Poirot who's actually Australian. Right. I think I'm with him.
But that sort of thing was ridiculous. Surely. He looked grave. Was someone in danger? It didn't bear thinking about. These thoughts tumbled through Simon's brain as his eyes darted nervously over Dan's watchful expression. Okay, come on in. Tea, did you say? Oh yeah, do you happen to have any Lady Grey? Dan inquired eagerly, his features lighting up. We have tea, Simon remarked dryly. That'll do. The conversation died, leaving the whistle of the kettle as the only sound to fill the room. Dan fixated on the steam pouring from the kettle before gradually switching his attention to the clouds hanging outside the window. Do you vape? I'm sorry, that's a bad pun. To the clouds hanging outside the window.
Oh, I just assumed that was in there.
No. And then the framed photos scattered around the room. Simon sat down a mug of tea in front of Dan. Simon, by the way, Simon Clark. Dr. Simon Clark.
Thank you very much.
The PhD certificate mounted on the wall. Oh, of course, Simon smiled, ready to launch into an explanation before Dan cut him off. Does anyone live with you, Simon? My girlfriend, we just moved in together. Where'd you live before? Exeter, where I was doing my PhD. Yeah, I meant to ask, what are you studying? Atmospheric physics, or more accurately, dynamic stratosphere-troposphere coupling. Got it, Dan interjected. So, climate, weather patterns, that sort of thing. Simon beamed. Precisely. You don't happen to watch Sky News, do you? The visitor...
Oh,
the
God,
visitor
imagine
didn't
if I was
answer.
actually like that.
Oh, God, yeah.
You may have seen me on the news. If I was the Ralph Allwood of climate, science explainers.
Jesus, yeah. Stop it, Simon, stop. Precisely. You don't happen to watch Sky News, do you? The visitor didn't answer. He was nodding, slowly. Simon watched him, bemused, as the cogs turned behind his eyes. That settles it. It all makes sense, Dan muttered to himself. What does? Simon was confused, slightly panicked even. What had he said? Simon Clark, you are to come with me. Please don't resist. What? I really must insist that you do. I'm afraid that if you don't, you have don't much of... Oh, God.
Oh, bloody hell.
I really must... Oh, Jesus.
That got out of hand.
I really must insist that you do. I'm rather afraid you don't have much choice in the matter. I don't understand. Don't play fool with me, Clark, the young man snarled. I dare... Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God, I can't speak. I doubt I have to explain the extent of your crimes to you. Simon felt a shooting pain in his legs. Yeah. Well, Simon felt a shooting pain in his legs. He collapsed to the floor, groaning. It'd be much simpler for both of us if you just followed my lead. Dan's lips curled into a smile, and in a triumphant tone he announced, The weatherman shall finally answer to the Queen of the Magi.
Oh my God, what?
Gosh.
Tell me that's not the end.
That's the end.
No!
That's the end of chapter 1. Yes.
You can't leave me like that.
That's incredible. Also, the specifically stratosphere, the coupling point, there's a footnote saying, lifted straight from Simon's website. Thanks, mate.
I was going to say, that's like, wow, they've really nailed that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Anna Bryan, what a fantastic debut into the fanfiction writing sphere.
I mean,
it's terribly exciting.
With these fanfictions, it's often the case that I'm like, about a minute in, I'm like, where is this going? This doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And then it's like a hockey stick. Right at the end, it's like just goes from 0 to 100 really quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear chapter 2.
I know. Well, and we also have another fanfiction. Was it from Hecking Ruddy George?
Yeah, or was it the case of the deleted pixels?
Yes.
Season 2, episode 2.
That was it, yes.
Which we can do next week. That's of course from the famed Joshua.
Yes.
Who's a veteran of the fanfiction.
A real fan favourite in the fan fiction game. So, oh man, what a time to be alive! Like,
absolutely,
this is some golden age of the Wikicast.
You right there?
Right now.
You sound like I had a bit of a stroke.
A gold.
That sentence. This is a golden. Oh, you were just doing a Dracula.
It's golden age of the Wikicast. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, we should probably move on because it's getting kind of late.
Yeah, it is.
So, Dan, what have we learned today?
Today, Simon, we learnt about Space Taxi, the action game for the Commodore 64.
God, I actually forgot. Okay.
Yeah. We had a big old chat about the game and the Commodore 64 and what came out in our years of birth and just so many nerdy things. We went for too long.
I probably edited that section more than normal, I think. But it was good. And then we launched into Dan's Choral Corner. Your favourite. What was it again? Your piece of the week?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was Hadley's My Beloved Spake. Organ first, then orchestration. I don't know. I'm sure I've looked this up. Let's have a look. Spake. I think it's just archaic speak. Yeah, my beloved spake and said unto me is the lyric. So it's
right.
He spoke and said this.
Okay, like it implies that it's a noun if you cut the title short.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
Past
interesting.
of speak, apparently. There you go.
Well, yeah, we learned about that, and then I was talking about Jake Paul. Sorry,
apparently it's from the Old Norse spak. Which is quite good.
Oh dear.
My beloved spak and said unto me.
Oh no.
Okay.
We also talked about the Shane Dawson's documentary series about Jake Paul. We talked about various viewing and reading habits, and then we had I think a milestone moment in the history of the Wikicast. I think a truly momentous Crisis Corner, and just generally the correspondence in this episode was fantastic. And Do remember, if you have a crisis, you can email us at spongyelectric@gmail.com, and you can also email us with other... Well, actually, tell you what, we actually talk about it in our outro, so why don't I just do that now? That's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Your favourite chocolate, donations to the John Rutter Memorial Home for Injured Swans, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole.
And we'll see you next time. Oh, you're here now? I couldn't hear you for ages.
Oh, yeah, I could hear you the entire time. Anyway, yeah, we
did you say anything, or did you stay quiet?
I was talking.
Oh, I just massively caught up with you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we teased that it existed.
Are you there?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yes, I'm here. Still here.
Hello? Hello?
Still here. Still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. Still here. Still here. I'm still here. Still here. Still here. Still here.
Can you hear me?
I'm still. Yeah, I can. Can you hear me? I'm still here. Can you hear me? Still here. Can you hear me? Doesn't seem like you can hear me. Can you not?
Okay, there's a massive delay, and you're super lagging and going roboty, and I don't know what's going on.
Hang on. I'll call you again.
Okay.
Wait, that was no lag whatsoever. Right, I should get the
get the dildo out. What?
There we go.
Oh, the writing on this dildo is so small I can't read out all the patrons' names.
Dan Manvey?